The sky above Earth burned red. It was not the color of sunset, and it was the color of ending. Giant alien warships covered the heavens like dark clouds, their lights flashing like cold stars. The air was heavy with smoke and fear. Humanity, the Yao, once proud race that dreamed of stars, now stood on the edge of extinction. Captain Elias Ward ran through the destroyed streets of New London, his boots splashing through puddles mixed with ash and rain. Around him, the sound of explosions echoed through the ruins. He looked up once, just long enough to see one of Earth's last defense ships fall from the sky, burning like a falling comet. He whispered softly, "Another one gone." His radio crackled. "Captain Ward, this is command. The evacuation has failed. The aliens have surrounded every major city. You need to leave now." Elias stopped running. His hand tightened on his rifle. "And leave everyone behind?" he said quietly. "Not happening." The voice on the radio tried again. "Captain, there is no hope left." But Elias shut it off. Hope was all that kept him moving. The invaders were known as the Valoran Dominion, a collection of alien races united by power and fear. For years they had watched humanity grow stronger, faster, and bolder. Humans had built colonies on Mars, ships beyond Jupiter, and even mining stations near Pluto. But the Valorans didn't see humans as equals. They saw them as a threat. The war began suddenly, a silent attack that came from every direction. Communication systems failed, satellites were turned into weapons, and within weeks, most of Earth's defenses were gone. But humanity didn't surrender. They fought in every street, every ruined building, every empty sky. Even when there was nothing left to win, they still fought, and that frightened the Valorans. Captain Elias led a small group of survivors through the remains of an old subway tunnel. The walls shook as bombs fell somewhere above. The air smelled of dust and fire. Beside him walked Lieutenant Mara Voss, a skilled engineer with tired eyes but a steady heart. She spoke softly, trying to hide her fear. "Do you really think there's a chance, Captain?" Elias didn't answer right away. He looked at the small group behind him, soldiers, medics, and even children who had somehow survived. They were all looking at him, waiting for a reason to keep going. He finally said, "As long as one human still stands, there's always a chance." The words were simple, but they lit a spark in every heart. Above the clouds, the Valoran flagship floated silently. Inside its command deck, High Chancellor Zenath, leader of the Dominion, watched the destruction unfold. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp, cold, and calculating. "Report," she ordered. "Earth's defense grid has collapsed," said her officer. "Only small resistance pockets remain. Their command centers are destroyed. Victory is complete." Zenath nodded, but something inside her didn't feel like victory. She had fought many wars, conquered many species, but none fought like humans. They didn't fight for territory or survival alone. They fought for something invisible, something the Valorans didn't understand. Even as their cities burned, humans sang songs, helped strangers, and refused to kneel. "What drives them?" Zenath whispered to herself. Back on the surface, Elias and his group reached the underground hangar. Inside stood a damaged starship, the Dauntless. It was old, scarred from many battles, but still functional. It was one of the last human warships left. Mara ran her hand across the hull. "She's a mess," she said. Elias smiled faintly. "So are we." They began working fast. Power lines were reconnected, engines restarted, and systems came alive one by one. The ship's lights flickered weakly, but it was enough. When they powered up the main screen, a map appeared showing dozens of red dots, enemy ships surrounding the planet. "There's no way out," one soldier said in despair. Elias turned to face them. "Maybe not for all of us," he said. "But if I can get this ship to orbit, maybe I can send a message. One last signal to anyone still listening." "What kind of message?" Mara asked. Elias looked at her and said, "That humanity isn't finished." Hours later, the Dauntless rose from its hidden hangar like a wounded bird. Engines roared, smoke trailed behind, but it climbed higher and higher. Enemy radar picked it up immediately. Valoran cruisers turned toward the signal. Dozens of ships began to chase. Zynath watched the small human vessel on her monitor. "What is that fool trying to do?" she asked. Her officer replied, "A single ship cannot escape. Should we destroy it?" Zynath thought for a moment. Then she said, "No, observe." She wanted to see how far one human would go. Inside the Dauntless, alarms screamed. Energy readings spiked. The control screens flickered under damage. But Elias didn't slow down. He pushed the ship's engines past their limits. "Captain," Mara shouted, "the heat levels are off the charts. We'll burn up." Elias smiled faintly. "Then we'll burn brighter than the stars." He locked the coordinates manually and opened a secure transmission to all nearby frequencies. His voice was calm, strong, and clear. "This is Captain Elias Ward of Earth's Defense Command. To any human out there, to any ally still listening, we are not defeated. You hear me? Humanity still stands." The message echoed across space, bouncing between satellites, reaching far systems where human colonies still survived in silence. For the first time in months, they heard a human voice full of courage, not fear. But the Valorans were furious. Dozens of enemy ships opened fire. Blue beams of energy cut across the black sky. The Dauntless shuddered, parts of its hull melting away. Mara clung to her seat. "They're locking on us." "Good," Elias said. "Let them come." He turned the ship sharply and charged toward the enemy fleet. It was madness, one human ship against an entire armada. But Elias wasn't running. He was showing them what it meant to fight like a human, without surrender, without fear. The Dauntless weaved through enemy fire, striking back with precision shots that tore through smaller vessels. One, then two, then 5 alien ships exploded in blinding flashes. The Valorans began to hesitate. "Why aren't they retreating?" one alien officer cried. "He's only one man." But their fear grew stronger with each passing second. Zynath leaned forward, her eyes fixed on the screen. "Look at him," she murmured. "He fights as if he's already won." The alien officer turned to her nervously. "Should we destroy him?" Zynath didn't answer right away. She felt something strange, a feeling she hadn't known before. It wasn't anger or pride. It was respect. "Finally," she said. "Not yet. Let's see how long he stands." Elias's ship shook violently as explosions burst around him. The controls sparked, smoke filled the bridge, but his eyes never left the stars ahead. He whispered softly, almost to himself, "For Earth, for everyone." A final energy blast hit the Dauntless, sending it spinning into orbit. Systems failed, alarms screamed, and everything went dark. But in that darkness, Elias smiled, because he knew his message had been sent. Somewhere out there, someone had heard it. Hours later, on distant worlds where small groups of humans still hid, the message played again and again. "This is Captain Elias Ward. Humanity still stands." And with every repetition, hope began to rise. People who had given up started to believe again. Children whispered his name. Soldiers raised their weapons once more. And even in the heart of the Valoran fleet, whispers spread like wildfire. They said the last human was still fighting. They said he couldn't be stopped. They said he made the stars tremble. For the first time, the galaxy began to feel something new, something that humans had always known. Fear. Fear of the last human who refused to fall. Fear of the courage that no machine or empire could destroy. Fear of the spirit of humanity, the fire that could not be put out. And somewhere in the silence of space, the Dauntless floated, broken but not defeated. Inside, Captain Elias Ward opened his eyes again. He was still alive, and so was hope. Silence filled the remains of the Dauntless. The once proud human warship now drifted quietly through space. Its engines were dead, and its lights flickered weakly like a candle in the wind. Inside, everything was broken. Wires hung loose, smoke floated in the air, and panels sparked with dying energy. In the middle of that wreckage lay Captain Elias Ward. He was barely conscious. His body bruised, his breathing shallow. For a long moment, he didn't move. The only sound was the faint hum of the ship's failing power core. Then, slowly, his eyes opened. A low groan escaped his lips as he tried to sit up. The room spun for a second before his vision cleared. The sight that greeted him was one of destruction. The control consoles shattered, the glass cracked, and the stars outside burning faintly through the broken viewport. But Elias smiled faintly. "I'm still here," he whispered. He reached for the emergency panel and pressed a few buttons. A weak blue light blinked on and the ship's voice, near a soft female tone, spoke through static. "Warning. Critical systems damaged. Oxygen levels at 40%. Reactor unstable." Elias coughed, shaking his head. "You and me both, Dauntless." He tried to stand, but pain shot through his left leg. Ignoring it, he limped toward the communication console. The screen was cracked, but when he tapped it, something amazing appeared. A list of received transmissions. The message he had sent before losing consciousness had spread. Hundreds of signals were returning. Some were human, others alien. He opened the first one. A small video played. A group of human miners from Mars' underground colonies. Their faces were covered in dust, but their eyes were full of fire. "This is Outpost 9, the leader said. "We heard your call, Captain Ward. You're not alone. We're ready to fight again." Elias's chest tightened with emotion. He quickly played another. "This is Luna Base. We thought Earth was gone. But if you're alive, then maybe there's still hope." More messages followed. Voices from asteroid colonies, deep space traders, and even human refugees hiding in alien cities. His message had reached them all. For the first time in months, humanity was no longer silent. But among the returning messages, there was one that stood out. Its signal pattern was different, not human. Elias hesitated before playing it. The screen flickered, then showed a tall alien figure with silver skin and 4 glowing eyes. "This is Commander Thal of the Varn Collective," the alien said. "We are not allies of the Valoran Dominion. We watched what they did to your world. Your message reached us. You fight for survival. We respect that. Contact us, human. Perhaps we can help." Elias stared at the screen, shocked. An alien race offering help? That had never happened before. For centuries, humans had been treated as lesser beings, noisy, emotional, unpredictable. But now one alien commander spoke with respect. He smiled weakly. "Seems like someone finally understands us." Meanwhile, on the Valoran flagship Obsidian Crown, High Chancellor Zynath stood before her observation window, watching the damaged Dauntless drift across the stars. Her expression was unreadable, but her mind was not calm. The human captain should have died hours ago, yet somehow his message had spread through half the galaxy. Reports were flooding in, human colonies awakening, resistance groups forming, even alien species questioning Valoran rule. Elias Ward had started something far greater than war. He had started change. Her second officer approached carefully. "Chancellor, should we destroy his ship now?" Zynath's golden eyes narrowed. "No, not yet." The officer blinked in surprise. "But he is dangerous." "Yes," Zynath said slowly. "And that's why I want to see how far his danger reaches. Fear spreads faster than fire. I want to see how many will burn." She turned away from the window. "Prepare an infiltration team. I want that human alive." Back inside the Dauntless, Elias worked to repair the power systems. His hands were dirty, his clothes torn, but he kept going. Every spark of light, every hum of machinery reminded him that he still had a mission. Mara's voice echoed in his memory. "As long as one human still stands, there's always a chance." He smiled faintly and whispered, "You were right, Mara." After several hours, he managed to restore partial power. The ship's lights glowed dimly and the engines coughed weakly before stabilizing. "Dauntless, status report," he said. "Reactor output. 30%, the ship replied. "Weapons offline. Navigation offline. Life support active." "That'll do," Elias muttered. He leaned back in his seat, staring at the stars. They seemed endless, cold, and beautiful. A reminder of everything humanity had lost and everything it could still become. He opened a new recording channel. "This is Captain Ward. To all who received my message, I'm alive. I'll keep broadcasting. We may be scattered, but we are still one people. Don't stop fighting. Don't stop believing." He sent the message again, this time on every open frequency. Far away on a small mining colony orbiting Jupiter, a young boy named Samir listened to the signal through an old radio. His father had told him that humans were finished, that there was no point in hoping. But when he heard Elias's voice, something inside him changed. He ran through the dusty corridors shouting, "He's alive! The captain is alive!" And soon others gathered around. The workers began whispering, then cheering. Tools were dropped, machines restarted, and lights that had been off for months flickered back to life. All because of one human voice. In another part of the galaxy, Commander Thal of the Varn Collective watched the same broadcast. His people had long believed emotions made species weak, but as he listened to Elias speak, he began to question that belief. "This human fights without hope," he said quietly. "He fights because it is right." His second-in-command tilted her head. "Do you wish to contact him again?" Thal nodded slowly. "Yes, I think. The galaxy may need him, but not everyone saw it that way." Inside the Valoran Dominion, fear turned to anger. Many alien leaders demanded that Xenath crush the last human immediately. They feared the rise of rebellion, the spread of courage among weaker worlds. Xenath called a meeting of the High Council. Her voice was calm, but her words carried weight. "You all think this human is a threat," she said. "You're right, but fear him not because of his weapons. Fear him because he has already changed you. Look at yourselves. You speak of one man as if he were an army." The council chamber fell silent. None dared to argue. Xenath turned away, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I want to understand him. No empire can last forever, maybe. He knows why." Back on the Dauntless, the radar beeped. A soft but steady sound. Elias looked up sharply. The signal was coming from the edge of the system and a Varn ship. He hesitated for a moment, then opened a channel. "This is Captain Ward. Identify yourself." The screen flickered and Commander Thal appeared again. "Human," Thal said. "I offer you shelter and supplies. The Valorans will come for you soon. My fleet can hide you." Elias studied him carefully. "Why would you help me?" Thal's four eyes glowed faintly. "Because your fight has shown us what courage looks like. We forgot it long ago." Elias nodded slowly. "Then let's make sure you remember." He set the course manually, guiding the broken Dauntless toward the coordinates sent by Thal. As the ship limped forward, the stars seemed to move with purpose. In his heart, Elias knew this was only the beginning. Humanity's fire had been reignited. The galaxy was watching, and soon, fear would turn into something even greater. Respect. Meanwhile, deep within the Valoran fleet, Xenath stood alone in her dark chamber. On the screen before her played the recording of Elias's latest message. His voice echoed softly. "We may be scattered, but we are still one people." For the first time in her long life, Xenath felt something she couldn't name. It was not hate, not anger, but something almost like hope. She turned off the screen and whispered to herself, "Perhaps fear is not the only thing humans can teach us." Outside her window, the stars burned quietly, and somewhere among them the last human moved forward, carrying the weight of a lost world and the light of its spirit. The Dauntless drifted slowly toward the edge of the Varn system, its engines weak but still burning with stubborn light. Inside, Captain Elias Ward stood at the main console, his eyes fixed on the view ahead. Stars stretched across the darkness like diamonds scattered over velvet, and far in the distance, a single blue light blinked, the signal of Commander Thal's ship. For a moment, Elias allowed himself to breathe. It was strange. Just days ago, he was fighting alone against an empire that had destroyed his world. Now, for the first time, there was a promise of help. Still, he couldn't relax. "Dauntless," he said quietly. "How far to the Varn coordinates?" The ship's calm voice replied, 70,000 kilometers, Captain. Energy levels are dropping. We cannot maintain speed for long." Elias nodded. "We'll make it. We always do." He leaned back in his chair and stared at the small picture taped to the console. A photo of his old crew, smiling, alive. Most of them were gone now, but their memory kept him standing. As the Dauntless approached the Varn fleet, a message appeared on the screen. "This is Commander Thal of the Varn Collective. Human vessel, reduce speed and prepare for docking. You are entering protected space." Elias smiled faintly. "Acknowledged, Commander. And thank you. Not many would open their doors to a dying man." "Not many would make the galaxy listen," Thal replied. Minutes later, the Dauntless was pulled gently into the hangar bay of a large Varn ship. The bright lights blinded Elias for a moment as the landing platform settled. When the airlock opened, he stepped out slowly, his boots echoing on the metal floor. Dozens of Varn soldiers watched him silently. Their tall, slender forms and silver-blue skin made them look almost ghost-like. None of them spoke. Elias stood straight, his uniform torn and his face tired, but his eyes steady. He wasn't there as a beggar. He was there as a human. Then Commander Thal approached. He was taller than the rest, with calm, wise eyes and an air of quiet strength. "Captain Ward," he said. "Welcome aboard." Elias nodded respectfully. "You didn't have to take this risk. The Valorans won't forgive this." Thal tilted his head. Perhaps it's time someone stopped fearing forgiveness. They walked together through the shining corridors of the Varn vessel. Everything was clean, silent, and bright, a stark contrast to the smoke and ruin of Earth. Elias noticed how every Varn moved in perfect order, their actions guided by calm logic. No one shouted, no one argued. To most, it would have seemed peaceful. To Elias, it felt empty. Finally, they entered a room filled with star maps and glowing symbols. Thal gestured toward the central display. "This is the galaxy as we know it," Thal said. "The Valoran Dominion controls most of this region. Their fleets are countless. You cannot defeat them alone." "I already knew that," Elias said simply. "But maybe we can do something they don't expect." Thal turned to him. "And what would that be?" Elias looked at the stars on the map, 1,000 lights representing 1,000 worlds. "Give them something to believe in," he said. "They have power. We have purpose. If we remind others what that means, maybe the galaxy will stand with us." Thal studied him silently. "You speak of faith, human. We Varn do not understand such things." Elias smiled faintly. "Then maybe it's time you learned." Days passed. The Dauntless remained docked while the Varn engineers worked tirelessly to repair it. Elias helped wherever he could, lifting parts, adjusting wires, and explaining human designs. The Varn observed him closely, fascinated by his determination. Unlike their kind, humans made mistakes often, but they also adapted quickly. Every error became a lesson, every failure a step forward. The Varn had built their civilization on logic. Humans built theirs on hope. One young Varn technician named Sira asked him one day, "Why do you try so hard, Captain, when your world is gone?" Elias smiled gently. "Because if I stop trying, then everything they died for means nothing." Sira blinked, confused but thoughtful. That night, she replayed his words again and again. Meanwhile, far away, High Chancellor Zynath sat in her command room aboard the Obsidian Crown. Reports filled her desk, whispers of rebellion on several conquered worlds, soldiers questioning orders, colonies refusing tribute, and at the center of it all was one name, Elias Ward. She opened a hologram showing his face, captured from the last transmission. His eyes were calm, his voice steady. "This man," she said softly to herself, "has turned fear into fire." Her advisor entered. "Chancellor, the Council demands immediate action. They believe the Varn are aiding him." Zynath's expression darkened slightly. "Then it seems we are not the only ones afraid. What are your orders?" the advisor asked. Zynath looked back at the human's image. "Prepare a strike force, but bring him to me alive. I want to know what makes him different." Back on the Varn ship, Thal invited Elias to the council chamber, a large circular room filled with holographic stars. The Varn council members stood around him, their silver robes shimmering in the soft light. Thal spoke first. "Honored Council, this is Captain Elias Ward of Earth. He seeks an alliance against the Valoran Dominion." A wave of murmurs filled the room. One elder stepped forward. "The humans brought chaos to their own world. Why should we trust him?" Elias met the elder's gaze. "You shouldn't," he said honestly. "Trust has to be earned. But I can tell you this, and the Valorans will not stop with Earth. They will come for you for every free world. If you wait until it's your turn, it will be too late." The elder frowned. "We have survived by staying out of wars." Elias took a step forward. "You've survived by staying silent. But silence helps the conqueror, not the conquered." His voice was calm, but his words struck deep. The room fell quiet. For the first time, the Varn saw not a desperate man, but a leader. Thal broke the silence. "Perhaps he is right. Fear has ruled us too long." The council hesitated, then one by one they nodded. The decision was made. The Varn would stand with humanity. Later, Elias stood on the ship's viewing deck watching stars drift by. Thal joined him holding a small holographic device. "This contains the coordinates of hidden worlds," Thal said. "Places the Valorans fear to enter. We can use them as bases, but we will need others. Allies who still believe." Elias nodded. "I know where to start." He activated his own transmitter and recorded a message. "This is Captain Elias Ward of Earth. To all free worlds, to all who still dream, we are not alone anymore. The Varn stand with us, join us. Together we can end the Dominion's rule." The message spread again from one system to another, crossing borders and breaking through jamming fields, and everywhere it reached, something began to change. Miners on Mars raised their tools as weapons. Refugees on hidden moons sent signals of support. Even alien traders began whispering of the Alliance of Hope. The legend of the last human was no longer just a story. It was a movement, but the Valorans were not idle. As the message spread, Zenith's fleet moved through space like a shadow. Hundreds of warships gathered, their engines glowing red. The Chancellor stood at the front of her command deck. "He wanted the galaxy to see him," she said softly. "So let them watch. Let them see what happens when one human stands against an empire." Her ships jumped into hyperspace, heading straight toward the Varn system. Back aboard the Dauntless, alarms suddenly blared. "Captain," the ship's AI warned. "Multiple enemy signatures detected. Valoran fleet incoming." Elias looked at Thal. Neither spoke for a moment, but both understood. The peace they'd built had only bought them time. He straightened his uniform and gave a small smile. "Guess they didn't like the invitation." Thal's eyes glowed brighter. "Then let us welcome them properly." Engines roared. The Varn fleet formed around the Dauntless, their ships gleaming in the starlight. It was the first time in centuries that another race had chosen to stand beside humanity. Elias stepped onto the bridge, his voice calm and firm. "All hands ready. Today we fight not just for Earth, but for every world that still dreams of freedom." The Varn commander nodded. "And for the courage to believe." As the Valoran ships appeared on the horizon of space, the stars lit up with the glow of an oncoming war. Elias stared at the approaching fleet, his heart steady, his spirit unbroken. The last human stood once more, and the galaxy was about to remember why that was something to fear. The stars above the Varn system shimmered faintly, but the darkness of space was pierced by the red glow of the approaching Valoran fleet. Hundreds of warships moved in perfect formation, their engines blazing like angry fire across the void. The calm of the Varn fleet could not hide the tension among its ranks. The Valorans were known for their ruthlessness, and now they were coming for humanity and its new allies. Inside the Dauntless, Captain Elias Ward stood at the main viewport, his eyes fixed on the approaching enemy. Beside him, Commander Thal and a small group of Varn officers prepared their own strategies. "We're outnumbered," one young Varn officer said nervously. "We can't hold them." Elias shook his head. "It's not about holding them. It's about showing them what humans fight for. It's about proving that one person can change everything." Thal watched him carefully. "You speak of courage as if it is a weapon. Maybe it is," Elias replied softly. "It's the only weapon they can't predict." The Valoran fleet arrived, stretching across space like a living shadow. Red lights glimmered on their ships, warning beams sweeping across the battlefield. High Chancellor Zynath stood on the command deck of the Obsidian Crown, her golden eyes locked on the glowing blue light of the Varn system. "Do not underestimate him," she warned her officers. "He is only one human, but somehow he has made the galaxy tremble." One officer hesitated. "Chancellor, his fleet is small, barely a fraction of ours." "This battle is already decided." Zynath's voice was quiet but sharp. "Perhaps. Or perhaps fear is stronger than numbers." The Valorans pressed forward, their weapons ready, their minds focused on destruction. Yet even as they prepared to strike, a ripple of doubt passed through their crews. Reports had already reached them. Whispers of humans standing strong, of colonies resisting, and of alien races questioning Valoran control. For the first time, the Valorans felt something unfamiliar. Fear. On the Dauntless, Elias reviewed the battle strategy with Thal and the Varn commanders. "Use the debris fields near the outer asteroid belt," Elias instructed. "We can hide our smaller ships there and launch surprise attacks. Hit the supply vessels first. Confuse them. Make them hesitate. Thal nodded. Your strategy relies on deception and courage. Varn warships are not built for unpredictability. Elias smiled faintly. Neither are humans. That's why it works. The Varn fleet moved into position, forming a protective shield around the Dauntless while smaller ships took off toward the asteroid belt. Elias climbed to the upper deck to watch. His eyes scanned the stars, every small ship and light moving with silent precision. This is it, he whispered. Time to show them what humanity can do. The first attack came suddenly. Velaran strike fighters darted through space like swarming insects, their red beams slicing through asteroid fields. The Varn ships responded quickly, but Elias's small squadron used the asteroids as cover, striking from unexpected angles. Explosions lit the darkness. A Velaran cruiser blew apart, sending fragments spinning across the void. Another was crippled by precise hits from hidden human Varn units. The Valoran fleet hesitated. Their formations faltered. For the first time in history, a single human captain was dictating the pace of a galactic battle. Impossible, one Valoran officer shouted. They are too unpredictable. Xenath's eyes narrowed. No, she whispered. They are human. Back on the Dauntless, Elias monitored the battle, coordinating every move. He shouted orders to his ships, dodging energy blasts and directing counterattacks. Every move was precise yet daring, a perfect combination of strategy and courage. Beside him, Thal's eyes glimmered with awe. I have seen many wars, he said quietly, but I have never seen leadership like this. Elias glanced at him. It's not leadership. It's humanity. We don't follow rules and we fight for what matters. The Varn officers watched, inspired. Slowly, their fear turned into determination. Every ship followed the Dauntless, moving as if drawn by Elias's will. In the chaos of space, a single Valoran cruiser broke formation and charged directly at the Dauntless. Its massive cannons flared, lighting up the darkness with deadly red beams. Elias's heart raced. He could not allow the Dauntless to fall. Not now. Not when hope had begun to rise. He activated the ship's auxiliary systems, sending out an energy pulse that disabled the enemy targeting sensors. The cruiser faltered, firing wildly. Then Elias maneuvered the Dauntless directly behind a nearby asteroid, using it as a shield. From the shadows, human and Varn ships launched a coordinated attack, striking the cruiser from all sides. Explosions rippled through the ship and it disintegrated in a brilliant flash. Thal turned to Elias, his voice filled with respect. Your courage is contagious. They cannot predict you. Elias nodded, wiping sweat from his brow. That's the point. Across the galaxy, the battle had an effect beyond the fighting. Reports of human bravery spread like fire through the Velaran territories. Colonies that had given up hope began to resist. Refugees and oppressed aliens looked to the stars and whispered, if one human can fight, maybe we can too. Fear was turning into inspiration. For the first time, the Valorans realized that domination was not enough. Hearts and spirits mattered more than weapons. High Chancellor Xenath watched the battle unfold from her flagship. Her face was calm, but her mind churned. Why do they fight like this? She asked her aide. He is only one human. How can he make them resist? The aide shrugged. Perhaps it is not his power, but what he represents. Xenath stared at the screen, her thoughts heavy. She had conquered countless species, yet she could not conquer the determination of a single human. For the first time in centuries, she felt something she had never felt before: respect. Hours passed and the battle continued. The Valoran fleet was strong, but their formation had been broken. The Dauntless and the Varn ships moved with fluid precision, striking strategically, avoiding direct confrontation, and slowly turning the tide. Elias looked around the bridge, his voice calm yet commanding. Keep pressing. Do not stop. Show them that the last human is not alone. The smaller ships followed his lead, every strike timed perfectly, every maneuver daring and precise. The Valorans struggled to respond, their confidence cracking under the unexpected tactics. Then came the moment that changed everything: a Valoran dreadnought. The largest ship in the fleet moved directly toward the Dauntless. Its cannons glowed with lethal energy. The Varn fleet hesitated. Their shields were strong, but not strong enough to withstand the full attack. Elias turned to Thal. We can't outrun it. We'll have to face it head on. Thal's eyes widened. It's suicide. Elias shook his head. No, it's human. The Dauntless and the Dreadnought collided, not physically but in strategy. Elias guided his ship through the enemy fire, dodging and weaving while directing smaller ships to attack weak points. Explosions rocked the Dreadnought, and slowly, inch by inch, the massive ship began to fall. Finally, with a coordinated strike from hidden Varn units, the Dreadnought erupted in a blinding flash. Pieces of metal and energy debris scattered across space. The Valoran fleet faltered completely. They were no longer fighting a human, they were facing an idea. A single human had changed the battlefield. When the smoke cleared, the Varn ships regrouped. Elias stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, breathing heavily but steady. The smaller fleet had survived. Many ships were damaged, but no lives were lost. Thal approached him quietly. You have done what I never imagined possible. You have turned fear into courage, Elias smiled faintly. We did it together. That's what humans do, and we fight for each other. Far away, the galaxy watched. From hidden colonies to distant stations, aliens and humans alike saw what one determined being could achieve. And for the first time, every Valoran who had witnessed the battle understood something they had never known. Humans were not just survivors. Humans were unstoppable. As the Dauntless and the Varn fleet moved away from the battlefield, Elias stood at the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly, a reminder of what had been lost and what could still be saved. He whispered softly, almost to himself, "We are not finished. Not yet, and we will never be forgotten." Somewhere in the distance, a small transmission beeped. Another human colony had heard the story. Another spark of hope had been lit. Elias smiled. The battle was won, but the war, the awakening of humanity across the stars, was only beginning. The stars above the Varn system glimmered like diamonds, calm yet full of unspoken tension. Across space, the Valoran Dominion lay in disarray. Their fleet had been shattered by a single human, and a coalition they could not predict. But even in victory, Captain Elias Ward knew the war was not yet over. The Dauntless had been repaired, patched with Varn ingenuity, but it still bore the scars of countless battles. Its hull was battered, its engines strained, yet it flew proudly. Elias stood on the bridge, staring at the stars, thinking of Earth, of the home that had been lost but not forgotten. Beside him, Commander Thal observed quietly. The Varn had grown to respect him, not only as a leader but as a symbol. "Captain Ward," Thal said softly, "the Valorans will not forgive this. They will strike again and harder. Are you prepared?" Elias nodded. "I've never been more ready. They've seen what humans can do, and now the galaxy has too." Across multiple systems, human colonies and allied species listened eagerly to the broadcast from the Dauntless. The legend of the last human had spread like wildfire. On Mars, miners dropped their tools, whispering to each other, "If one human can fight, maybe we can too." On Europa, scientists hid in underground stations, sending messages to others. We are not alone anymore. Even distant aliens, previously oppressed and silent, began murmuring of courage and hope. The galaxy was waking up. High Chancellor Zynath observed the chaos from the obsidian crown. Her eyes, golden and cold, scanned reports from across Valoran territory. Entire colonies had rebelled, minor fleets had refused orders, and the Valoran troops were confused and fearful. One officer entered nervously. "Chancellor, the human, Elias Ward, he has united their allies. Even some minor species are joining him. They are calling it the Alliance of Hope." Zynath's expression did not falter, but her voice was quiet, almost curious. "Fear can be a weapon. Courage can be contagious. Perhaps it is time we learn which spreads faster." On the Dauntless, Elias prepared for the next phase. He called a meeting with Thal and the Varn commanders. "The Valorans will regroup," Elias said, "but we are no longer reacting. We will take the fight to them. We will strike at their supply lines, their colonies, and their heart. We will show every world that humans do not give up." Thal's eyes glowed. "Your words inspire even my people. But Captain, can one human truly lead an entire alliance?" Elias smiled faintly. "I don't lead alone. We all lead together. But one human can start the fire, and fire spreads." The plan was daring. Small fleets would strike simultaneously at multiple Valoran targets. The goal was not total destruction, and it was demonstration. Every victory would send a message. Humanity cannot be stopped. The first attack was on a Valoran supply station orbiting a distant gas giant. The Varn ships led the assault with the Dauntless at the center, guiding the strategy. The battle was precise. Human ingenuity and Varn technology combined in a perfect dance. The supply station's defenses were crushed quickly, and the station was destroyed without harming the surrounding moons. Across the galaxy, the message spread instantly. Images of the attack were transmitted to hidden colonies and even Valoran-controlled systems. Humans were no longer victims. They were the spark of rebellion. In the days that followed, strikes became larger, bolder, and more coordinated. Human colonies joined in. Foreign allies took new risks. Minor alien species previously subdued by the Valorans now dared to resist. Elias stood at the bridge of the Dauntless, guiding the attacks. His hands were steady, his voice calm, his mind sharp. Beside him, Thal observed in awe. "Every time I think this is impossible, you prove me wrong," he said. Elias glanced at him. "Impossible is just a word. We are humans. We turn the impossible into hope." The Valorans, meanwhile, were faltering. Their fleets could no longer rely on fear alone. Resistance spread faster than their reinforcements. Xanath called for an emergency council. "This human has done what no one could before," she said. "He has united our enemies and inspired rebellion among the oppressed, and yet, he is only one man." An officer replied nervously. "Chancellor, should we strike him directly?" Xanath's eyes narrowed. "Yes, but not just to destroy him. Bring him to me. I want to understand why one human can make even my empire tremble." Elias sensed the incoming attack. Valoran warships appeared on long-range scanners, larger and more advanced than anything he had faced. But he remained calm. "We fight not for destruction," he said to Thal. "We fight for freedom, for every world that still dreams, for every being who refuses to kneel." The Dauntless led the fleet forward. Smaller human and Varn ships struck from hidden positions. The battle was fierce, but unlike before, the alliance had grown. Humans from scattered colonies, minor alien fleets, and even daring independent traders joined the fight. It was no longer a single human against an empire. It was the galaxy standing together. During the battle, Elias saw an opportunity. A Valoran dreadnought, massive and heavily armed, separated from the fleet to pursue the Dauntless. Its cannons glowed red, ready to annihilate his ship. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," Elias said, "and fire only when necessary. Aim for their engines. Disable, don't destroy." The Dauntless weaved through enemy fire, leading the dreadnought toward the center of a dense asteroid belt. Smaller Allied ships followed. The dreadnought's weapons were precise, but the human-led fleet was unpredictable. Using the asteroids as cover, they launched counterattacks. The dreadnought faltered, then exploded in a dazzling display of fire and debris. Every Allied ship cheered. Across the galaxy, hidden observers whispered of the human who had done the impossible again. After the battle, Elias sent a message. "This is Captain Elias Ward. To all humans and all who seek freedom, the Valoran Dominion is powerful, but it fears what cannot be destroyed. Courage, hope, and unity. Stand with us. Fight with us. The galaxy can change, but only if we all refuse to kneel." The transmission reached countless hidden systems. Small sparks of rebellion turned into flames. The galaxy began to awaken to the legend of the last human. High Chancellor Xanath received the broadcast aboard the Obsidian Crown. She watched Elias's face, calm, yet unyielding. For the first time, she saw clearly, fear alone could not control the galaxy. Power alone was not enough. "Perhaps," she whispered, "this human shows what it truly means to stand." Her officers waited for orders. Xanath looked at them and said quietly, "Let him come to me. I want to see the courage that makes an empire tremble." Elias, unaware that the Valoran Chancellor watched him, continued his work. "Prepare another fleet," he said. "We strike tomorrow at the Valoran Communications Hub. If we can disrupt their command, it will send a message no empire can ignore." Thal smiled. "You have turned fear into hope, Captain. Even my people feel it." Elias looked out at the stars. "Hope is stronger than fear. Always. The galaxy is beginning to see that. And one day, it will remember it forever." The next day, the combined human-Varn fleet moved against the Valoran hub. The battle was intense, but every maneuver was precise, every strike coordinated. Valoran forces struggled to respond. Communication lines were destroyed. Fleets confused, and for the first time humans and their allies had the upper hand. When the smoke cleared, the hub was in ruins. Across the galaxy, colonies that had hidden for centuries transmitted messages of rebellion. And everywhere, they whispered the same name, Elias Ward. Back on the Dauntless, Elias stood quietly watching the stars. His eyes were tired, but his spirit burned brighter than ever. Thal approached. "Captain Ward, do you realize what you have done?" Elias shook his head. "I have only shown them what humans can do. The galaxy itself is doing the rest." Thal nodded, understanding. "Then the last human is no longer alone. He has become more than a legend. He is a symbol." Elias looked at the stars and whispered softly, "We will not stop. Not until every world that can dream is free." In her command room, Zenith watched the chaos unfold. The Empire had been shaken. Entire systems were rising, and for the first time, she understood that power was not enough to conquer life. Respect, courage, and determination were forces she could not command. And somewhere in the galaxy, a single human had awakened them all, Captain Elias Ward. The last human stood tall on the bridge of the Dauntless. He had survived destruction, led an alliance, and inspired the galaxy to rise. Every alien that saw him knew the truth. Humans were not just strong. Humans were unstoppable. And as the stars stretched endlessly before him, he smiled. The galaxy had learned to fear humans, and to respect them forever. For humanity was not finished. It was only beginning.